What's going on, everybody? Welcome to tonight's broadcast of the NACL Open Qualifier Swiss stage here on the Aegis channel. We will be following along with number 2 seed Lotus all weekend long as they attempt to qualify for the GSL stage of the NACL Summer 2024 qualifiers. My name's Gordo. I'm joined today by Slayer. We've been testing the double play-by-play. We're bringing it to the qualifiers. Slayer, how are you doing tonight, man?
I'm excited, Gordo, for the reason you just stated, but more importantly, that we get to watch the way I tweeted out was I'm not trying to jinx anybody here. I'm a little superstitious myself, but a potential 5-0 team. The committee thinks so as well, with that number 2 seed as well. And it's just such a fun roster to look at. But Gordo, we don't really have much time to talk about it because these players want to get on the Rift.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like, and yeah, they're using draft lull, and we can't see the picks and bans. We warned them about this. They didn't listen to us. It's gonna be broken the whole time, guys. We're gonna have to use pro draft. We'll work that out with them in the chat right now. But we are having some difficulties with the drafting websites right now. So hopefully we can pivot on over to pro draft. I'm gonna ask our lovely producer PVS to maybe try to convince them that this is not going to work. But we have got a hell of a roster here today. Hopefully, I mean, I'm asking a lot out of PVS right here, but maybe we could just bring up that roster here to show off who is showing up for Lotus in this open qualifier. It is going to be Porsche, Dardoch, Robbie Bob, Sushi, and Mixture from top to bottom. So some great veterancy in the top side, flanked by some of the best up-and-coming bot lane talent we have got in the Tier 3 ecosystem.
Yeah, Gordo, it's honestly one of my favorite ways that I've seen teams construct rosters here, and I actually got to talk to Marquez after they announced this Lotus roster, and you kind of alluded to it a little bit, right? It's bringing in some veterancy, especially you need that shot caller, the veteran voice. You got multiple guys to do that, and then on the bot side specifically here for Lotus, you got that upside youth that is in a great spot to step up in. Obviously, Sushi's the name that really screams out there with that one. And you talk about, we're just coming off a lot of CLOL talk. Obviously, not the champions were UST, but they made a deep run, and it was very much so because of guys like Porsche and especially Robbie Bob in that mid lane.
Yeah, and wow, there's going to be a quick Tristana lock-in coming in from Lotus. The Corki already banned away, as are the Jinx and the Skarner. This is the last Tier 1 pick left available, and Lotus will snatch that one up. Dizzy definitely going to have a big response necessary here from Cammer in the mid lane to try to deal with Robbie Bob on this Tristana.
Yeah, I mean, so much you can do with this Tristana, especially in the new recent patches where crit has really returned back to its prominence. Now you don't have to worry too much about being that early game aggressive mid laner. You can always do that, but now Tristana also has the added effect that she will just scale up and become an absolute monster. Has really been a big part about a lot of these double marksman compositions that, well, I'm pretty certain we're going to see here from Lotus, but Dizzy on the turn here, going to go for the old reliable, lock in that Xin Zhao into the jungle, and looks like we're going to get a Rumble as well. Now, Gordo, you know as well as I do that we've seen Rumble go into quite a bit of lanes over our time, especially these last couple of months with these patches.
Yeah, definitely. It's still alive as a support for sure, but I do lean towards it most likely going into the top lane for Strict Proctor, coming in for Team Dizzy off the back of Grandview University, looking to have some success comparable to what they found in the Midwestern Conference over the course of this last split, or of course of the last whole CLOL season, as there's going to be Ashe coming on through for Lotus. That is a Sushi classic. I'm very happy that he's going to be able to snatch this one up for game number 1. And Porsche going to take the Udyr to the top lane.
Yeah, I really like this. I saw it in the LCK, actually, of all places. The Kwangdong Frika were utilizing the Ashe Tristana double marksman just to an absolute T. So I'm glad to see that, per usual, North America's taking some inspiration from the best region in the world here. Not a bad thing to go with. So you got the Ashe, the Tristana, a lot of safety, and I am very happy just to see overall that Ashe as an AD carry is back in that traditional marksman role, right? We've seen enough of that lethality, Halo Blade support Ashe. You still can go to it, but I'm expecting this, like you mentioned, to be a Sushi pick in the AD carry role. Bring out that PTA, bring out that scaling marksman with a bit of crowd control. But speaking of scaling marksmen, Gordo, that Sivir is a bit of a shock to me compared to the cream of the crop that was still available, with only Jinx being the other banned AD carry.
Yeah, and I'm getting a little concerned about Lotus's damage profile here, as they're pretty much committed to having some sort of AP jungler, you gotta think, but they banned away the Brand and the Karthus themselves. The Lilia's still hanging around, as is that Maokai, and even the Maokai, I mean, I don't know if you want that to be your only physical, or sorry, your only magical damage coming in from the jungle. So, I mean, a Lilia ban here from Dizzy feels like it does put Lotus into a very dangerous territory as far as damage profile goes, but we'll see if Lotus ends up feeling the same. A Pike ban coming in towards Dizzy now, maybe taking away some potential pocket picks away from Rock Tank in the bottom lane. Franco and Rock Tank, the bot and support for Team Dizzy, rookies around these parts, players that we have not gotten to see pretty much anything of so far.
Yeah, Gordo, it's always safe to default to banning the pocket pick with rookies like that. So take away the Pike, even if it doesn't synergize the best with a Sivir. I actually think it's the exact opposite of what you want from a support next to that Sivir. But pocket picks get taken away. The Jax ban intrigues me a little bit here from Team Dizzy. Obviously, that is a flexible pick, but it does also show to me that we know Porsche can really pilot this Jax well. We've seen it over the last couple months, especially with CeeLo. So they're a little bit wary that this Udyr might be going into the jungle. Udyr's obviously in that spot where I've seen those Conqueror Udyrs that really capitalize on those new AP magic items, and then you obviously have that PTA, more AD-based Udyr. And then you already talked about the top lane Udyr, which is just kind of the drain tank. There's a lot of ways you can go with this champion right now, and you can tell Team Dizzy are a bit worried about it as the Yuumi gets locked in.
Oh, whoa. All right, Dizzy. They're really going all in on this Sivir in the bottom lane for their rookie bot laner. That is going to be a spicy one coming out, putting all of the eggs in the Franco basket. I do want to call out, if we do end up seeing this Udyr in the jungle, another open qualifier participant, Shimmer from Euphoria. Big fan of even going for like hard AD Udyrs where you max up that bear stance, the Q. But it does look like it's going to be the Rek'Sai coming through. So not concerned about damage profile at all here, unless this Ashe is going support and they lock something like a Ziggs here versus Sushi.
Yeah, Gordo, I don't hate it because you just saw Yuumi get locked in support. So
that's true.
I don't think you have to worry too much about tank difference right now. You've got enough people to get on top of this Xin Zhao to get through a Crescent Guard, if that's going to be blocking a lot of the damage as well. We get the Hui locked in, though, on the B5 turn here for Lotus. That one's going to go into Robbie Bond's hands. And, you know, I got to respect this, Gordo. The 31 seed, we mentioned there's not a lot known about Team Dizzy. Some of these players, they've got some CeeLo profiles. They're going for it here with the Ivern and Yuumi R4 and R5 picks.
And is the Hui going into Robbie Bob's hands? Because Tristana's already locked in here. I think this might be a support of Hui coming through from Mixture. Going to be taking a little bit, or maybe it's even a bot lane carry Hui, or it could be Tristana Ashe bottom lane. Like, these three carry champions could be flexed all over the place here. I'm very curious to see how exactly they want to allocate things here. I see Dardoch in chat just said Trist mid, Ashe 80 carry, Hui support. I don't think he's obligated to give that information to the enemy team at this stage, but oh, okay, it's blind pick. That is why he has had to tell them. So we're going to get in the game as quickly as possible. That's part number one, just going to get that 3-minute spec delay and get right into the action. Part number two is we now know where those champions are going to be going.
Yeah, and Jimmy Jam on the other side also able to provide some intel back towards them, so it is a bit obvious, but that is going to be the Rumble mid. Not really seen a lot of the Rumble mid. I think I've always relied on throwing back to messages as that guy who kind of piloted it, but that was a couple of patches ago. So we'll see exactly what this Rumble mid looks like. We're just going to see what Team Dizzy's comp looks like as a whole, right? Because they are really going for what I got to assume, Gordo, is stalling out this game. Because at a certain point, you mentioned it, Sivir, not the highest graded AD carry, does still benefit a lot from the crit item changes, can become one of the most low-key scaling monsters in this game at full itemization. You had Yuumi shielding to that, you had Ivern shielding. You got to think this is the redemption, just full shield building Ivern in the jungle. They are really putting all their eggs in the basket that they could just make sure the Sivir doesn't die from anything. The question becomes, can they get to that point against Lotus's comp? It's a tough task.
Yeah, and it's crazy how they keep bamboozling us like this, Slayer. But again, I don't think this
Oh,
is Ivern in the jungle. I think
it's
this
not.
is mid lane Ivern
I'm so
coming
bamboozled today.
through from Cammer. This is a crazy draft for both teams. I mean, there's some really crazy champions. Oh, it's top lane Ivern,
Yeah.
which makes it Rumble mid.
Yeah, it's Rumble mid. Yeah, because Jimmy Jam said in the pregame chat that it was Rumble mid, so it's Ivern top into Porsche's Udyr. Don't think Porsche's has scrimmed a lot for this matchup. I gotta be honest.
I'm shocked to even see that coming on through. Like Ivern mid is a thing, but it's like a thing because it can enable your jungler a little bit extra from that center of the map, and there's some spicy kind of invade angles you can do with it, and you can just plant your bushes in the middle of the lane, farm on up, and kind of just equalize by using trigger seed to clear out waves. I don't know that you can necessarily do that the same way in top lane, but I mean, I appreciate seeing a lower seeded team here just kind of throw caution to the wind and go for a little bit of a spicier draft here to try to upset one of the best teams in the open qualifiers.
Yeah, and going back to the Ivern top, the one way I think I could try and understand it is the one way that Ivern can work in those lanes is with those pesky brushes you can throw up. It can be really hard for champions, with just point and click CC, point and click damage. And you mentioned like the full AD Udyr. I think the bear stands could struggle into it, but that's not what we're getting. This is Porsche's probably going to be going, utilizing those new AP items. He's going to be going somewhat drain tank so that his big AoE damage deal, his ultimate is going to be doing most of the damage. So yeah, I mean, we're about to figure it out. This is either going to fall completely flat on its face or it is going to be pretty unstoppable in the later game. But I hate to seem like a downer for Team Dizzy here, Gordo. I just don't think they're going to last long enough in this game, especially, most importantly, one thing we haven't talked about is the fact that Dardoch is on one of the arguably best early game enabling junglers in this Rek'Sai.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, the most standard top tier 1 comp meta draft right here coming on through from Lotus, but it's not necessarily what you need, especially at this stage of the tournament. Going for a little bit more comfort here. I really am curious to see how Mixture does on this Hwei support. This is something that has always kind of been on the fringes, but hasn't been a pick that we've gotten to actually see get picked in competition too often. But here and now they are going to go for it, and it's really going to be kind of necessary that it represents a sizable portion of their damage profile just to prevent a couple of armor items here and there on the Ivern and the Xin Zhao from really shutting down a lot of their game plan coming into this mid-game stage.
It's really fun as well to see Robbie Bob already adapting to the different meta. Obviously, this guy was playing a lot on that CLOL patch with how far UST were able to make the run of it. And when we saw him last in CLOL, we were seeing the Aurelion Soul a lot come out. He was playing some Hwei. He could throw down the Orianna himself as well. It was a lot of control mage oriented. And then obviously Robbie Bob is most famously known for his Victor gameplay. Now, in this new sort of meta that we're in right now with, I believe, 14.12 we're on right now, we're seeing Robbie Bob go towards a very different stylistic pick here. He's going towards that Tristana, and we'll see how much he can affect it. And I'm really curious also to see, with the fact they're into a safe lane like Sivir and Yuumi, bot side for Sushi and Mixture, if this Ashe is going to be aggressive, maybe going that Halo Blades as well, just to try and poke out Sivir and Yuumi, because we do know the one thing with Franco Sivir here, one of the best at clearing waves from very, very far away. So the lane prio here is definitely going to be in the hands of Lotus.
Yeah, absolutely here. And, the thing about Robbie Bob, right, is you could definitely, there's definitely been some criticisms of him voiced at like the NACL level and, at the top 4, top 2 collegiate level that he's been so frequently competing at. But he is so reliable when it comes to these open qualifiers. When you are the higher seeded team and you just need your players to show up and play their games and not let the variance get out of control to where you get upset by a team going for something kind of crazy the way that Team Dizzy is here, Robbie Bob is your guy. Robbie Bob, I have no doubt, will be super dominant, especially up against the melee Rumble in mid lane as the Tristana. He's in such a fantastic position here, and I am not envying where Cammer finds himself.
Yeah, not at all. But as we are on Summer's Rift here, we do see that Proctor is going to help Jimmy Jam get a good ward down on those chickens, those raptors, to at least try and track Dardoch's path here. And for a second there, I was scared we were not out of the lane swapping meta, because we did see Franco and Rock Tank hover towards that top side. It seems like it was just to prevent sort of any invade for Vision coming back on the opposite side here. Nothing too crazy, but Robbie Bob will try to match with a ward of his own, and we'll be able to get that one down. So both these teams going to have somewhat of an idea of what these clears are going to look like.
Yeah, for sure here as we find ourselves back in the laning phase here, kicking things off for the first matchup of the open qualifiers, and looking like it's going to be red side starts for both teams here. So an opportunity for perhaps some influence towards the bottom side coming in here from Team Dizzy. Is Porsche going to just take some early aggressive trades and says, hey man, this is Ivern. This is Ivern starting Bush Caller. I will fight him all day long.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta think Porsche is just smiling ear to ear this entire lane. This is the dream top lane matchup. I wonder if he almost wishes he was playing a super scaler that he could just easily farm up on and become a menace. But Udyr will certainly have to do. We do see that it looks like we're getting a bit of a mirrored clear coming across here for both of these junglers. Jimmy Jam will get spotted though on those chickens. Gonna see a couple of pings flying through there. And he certainly has, a lot to play for here once he gets to level 3, because like we talked about, virtually every lane is going to be shoving into their turrets if you are Team Dizzy.
Yeah, for sure. And so going to be getting shoved in every lane, and you know that Dardoch is going to take advantage of that, already starting to move in towards Team Dizzy's jungle. They will find a Jimmy Jam level there. 3. And now going to be threatening to take on away those grubs. Well, Porsche is already getting some procs to the top side. Forced out of his jungle is this Xin Zhao. Good combo out of Mixture. Going to take Franco incredibly low. Cammer coming to try to help out, but he's going to get caught in rotation, and first blood will go to Robbie Bob.
I mean, this is the veteran C showing out so well for Lotus. Dardoch gotta be loud in these comms, knows that Porsche could just be on that island, and the pushing lanes mean they can just go wherever they want so early on. He will get jumped on, trying to steal this blue buff, but Robbie Bob looking for the hop reset. The kill will come across here to Jimmy Jam. Robbie Bob gonna jump right back in though, try and find that trade, but it's actually gonna be a double to Jimmy Jam. Hello, Team Dizzy.
Really great stuff there, utilizing the early game power of the Xin Zhao, actually coming up with the 2-for-1 in the extended play. Really good stuff to try to get himself re-solidified there, as there was really a risk of him just getting taken completely out of the kind of jungle matchup there if Dardoch was able to take that whole top side, as well as picking up the first blood for Robbie Bob. But good clap back to be able to find that fight.
Does still look decently rough here for Team Dizzy across the other sides of the lanes here. We talked about the upside bottom lane that this Lotus is, and my God, if the few bits we've seen from Sushi and Mixture, especially Mixture, is just making Franco's life hell. You can see there's just constant volleys, constant severing bolts, and it's already a 20 CS lead for Sushi, as we see Robbie Bob dive in for some good chunking onto Kramer.
All right, really good stuff here. He's got the level advantage. He's got the gold advantage off of that first blood. Coming back to lane with the recurve bow already. So he might be going for that Blade of the Ruin King build that some people have been going to get a little bit more DPS on the Tristana. And traditionally, people are rushing the Kraken Slayer, but unless I'm totally out of date on my 80 carry itemization, I don't think recurve bow builds into that. It does. Well, then I have no idea. Could be either build still.
I wouldn't hate the Blade of the Ruin King here, because you don't need the pure, I don't know. I keep thinking old Kraken, where you're trying to be a bit of a tank buster. It still is like that, but you do get more of the benefits of the 3 autos. We do see Porsche is finally not going to be able to do his proxy fun into the Ivern, because the 2 kills Xin Zhao showed up. Jimmy Jam going to jump on top of him, but Porsche has the ghost pop. And just as we know, Udyr is very hard to catch, especially once he goes right back into that bear stance. Still getting chased down as Jimmy Jam will dash right back in, and Porsche is certainly teetering on the edge of death here. Still utilize the turtle form to get some shielding, but that's a 3rd kill over to Jimmy Jam Xin Zhao.
Yeah, really, really rough run down there, and that is going to give Jimmy Jam yet more gold. Robbie going aggressive in mid lane, though, with the level 6 advantage, and Hammer going to have to respect that and just get the heck out of dodge. He is at risk of just getting blown up by the full Robbie Bob combo on this Tristana. will be falling back away. Here comes
is Proctor
Jimmy Jam to
doing?
try to respond. Proctor TPing bot to try to give Franco the opportunity to get some amount of farm, and he's going to do it, but that is just abandoning top lane as Robbie flashes in and takes the solo kill. Now just trying to run this one out. He's got Dardoch for the backup, and they will have to give it up. So Lotus getting another kill into mid.
I mean, you talked about it, Gordo, with Robbie Bob. In these open qualifiers, he knows exactly what his limits are, exactly what he can get away with. You can see how cool, calm, and collected he is. Just ignoring the 2v1 at that point to find that solo kill. And really give Lotus a bit of a gold lead, but most of it is really coming from, like we kind of already harped on, just these pure CS differences. I mean, bottom, the CS gap between top and bottom with these two teams is nearly identical at over 30.
Yeah, I mean, they really kind of gave up on Proctor getting any substantial amount of farm at all with that TP in the bottom lane. So now just going to be Porsche already looking to just make it harder for him to come back into lane and actually play. He's got access to Daisy now. We'll give him some degree of backup, but Porsche is just going to try to draw attention up to the top side with this push on the proxy. But there's two members coming up and not too much punish to be found. So Porsche's going to have to get out of here as soon as his wave shows up. Going to try to run this out.
Daisy is chasing him down. It feels like deja vu to the last time we saw Porsche getting run down. There is the Rumble down over top. And it does sound like Camera will have enough to pick up that kill. Very interesting. Lotus are willing to give up kills because they are collecting all the gold in the lesser known areas with all these plates and CS differences.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine death. It gives Dardoch access to these grubs. It does give Robbie Bob some alone time on the mid lane turret, just taking more and more plate gold, and does not really have too much lasting implications. I mean, Camera gets the kill gold, but shouldn't be a big make or break factor for the time being. Porsche happy to give up his life to put the carries into a solid position to be able to come out on top.
And boy, are they in a solid position as well. As it does look like the Kraken is going to be the play here for Robbie Bob, holding on to those components. Like the mixture already has some heal cut as well into this Ivern Yuumi composition. He's going to be having to constantly throw these volleys down at. And we do see, though, that Jimmy Jam, who arguably has the most gold on Team Dizzy, is trying to prep for this dragon. Might go for a bot lane gank, though.
Ooh, really nice use of popping that spell shield to be able to get the ultimate on through, and Franco will fall down. Rock Tank getting chased back away, but Jimmy Jam turning this one around, going to try to chase on towards Sushi, gets him with the wind, becomes lightning, and now it's Mixture stuck deep behind enemy lines, wants to try to get back away from this alcove, and gets the movement speed, gets the fear, gets out. Meanwhile, dive in mid lane out of Dardoch, and Robbie Bob will take Camera to the ground and get Lotus positive in the play.
Positive in the play, and they're going to knock down the first turret mid lane with full plating. That is how chaotic of a game, powerful of an early game Lotus are currently sitting on. I mean, they might be able to go for just a bombastic amount of early plate gold here. Porsche has 4. They now have 5 in the mid lane, with 4 of those being solo to Robbie Bob. And you got to think that Sushi and Mixture ramping up in items are going to be able to pick off more, but they might just pick off Proctor as Dardoch strikes again, forcing the flash out of the Ivern.
Really great stuff there from Dardoch, just claiming a summoner spell. Easy peasy as he passes through. Doesn't have the ultimate, doesn't have the flash for himself to be able to finish off the kill, but will be able to return in the future as Dragon number 1 still standing. Will be started up by Team Dizzy. They should be able to secure this with Dardoch on the other side of the map.
Yep. Severing Bolt will spot out here for Mixture, but Jimmy Jam certainly has enough damage. No jungler around. We continue to see some very intriguing itemization. Gordo, I don't think in my casting career I've ever seen somebody rush a Seeker's Arm Guard, but that is what Camera is doing right now.
Yeah, perhaps older versions of it where you would, you get the extra armor and AP from last hit and minions. Definitely not this one where it's more expensive and does build into the Zonias, but gives you the stasis for a one-time use. I mean, Camera, feeling the pressure of these dives, really wants to have that stasis, but yeah, I mean, this is going to pretty much index him into having to go Zonias first, and just don't know if that's where you want to be.
I'm just enamored, Gordo. Do you think we're going to get the full 15 plate? Because we are currently at 12, and Robbie Bob with Demolish is not going to let up on this bot side turret. He might just kill Camera off right here if he doesn't take the reset. Has to utilize the Rumble just to knock the wave down. And that's not going to be up again for the next one.
No, it is not, but you do have a bit of time. I think the 15 plate is very likely. They're certainly going to be trying to get that into Robbie's inventory. He does have that Kraken Slayer completed, and does give Franco the opportunity to rotate over to mid to start picking up some farms. So that's a bit of a relief for Team Dizzy. But yeah, with this next wave crashing in, Cammer's in a bit of a sticky situation, calling over his jungler already.
Yeah. Offer here from Jimmy Jam. Cammer, he has a flame slayer. He's stepping up a little too far though by himself and nearly gets chunked on his own. There's the Seeker's arm guard he bought, but Robbie Bob just hop right away. Does have to flash away from Jimmy Jam. Got to respect the 4-0 Zinzao, and that will be enough to at least stall out the 15 plate.
So Cammer doesn't die. He does still lose this wave because he can't go and farm it.
Robbie Bob's
so yeah, I mean, okay, all right. You know what? Then he gets a wave that he otherwise may have not gotten because he gets to TP back. But I mean, he's still going to have to contend with Robbie, and just like that, I mean, a substantial portion of his investment is gone with that active having already been taken away.
And here, we'll see if Robbie can get the demolish off on this wave. Yeah, I think he's more content just poking down. We're so close to 14. We'll get it on this wave. Here it comes.
Yeah, I mean, Lotus is going to get the 15 plates. It seems like both Lotus and Team Dizzy have accepted this as an inevitability. There's not resources being allocated to try to stop this. There's also not resources being allocated to stop the grubs from going down. So it's just Lotus taking everything on the map.
It's what we expected in this draft, right? And I think Lotus did a very fine job adapting to the curveball the Team Dizzy threw them. Because you got to remember that their last two picks were this Rek'Sai and were this Hui, which were just purely there for lane prio and just jungle prio in general. And like we got to harp on a little bit before we jumped right into the pro draft, this is, you know, as much as we talk about the top 4, the top 6 teams in this qualifier, it's an easy argument to be made that Lotus bring the most, or at least, you know, top 3 amount of veterancy, and you're seeing it here.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Robbie and Porsche and Dardoch, they've seen it all. They know what's coming, and they have done a great job of being able to respond to this interesting draft coming out of Dizzy. Just being very comfortable and bullying this Ivern, bullying this Rumble, showing why, hey, you know, people generally don't pick these champions in these roles, and it's often because when you're playing up against players like these, you just cannot go toe-to-toe in lane when you're picking them. And that has been the case here as Dardoch going real deep for Cammer. They're not going to find him. TP being channeled, this is going to be punished instantly.
Yep, and here's the arrow. Yep. All right, so everybody is going to get out there. At least we see the first round of fight coming out from Team Dizzy. They're going to try to go through Jimmy Jam, who does force another flash. He's going to flash forward as well, but a good time buster shot from Robbie Bob. Make sure they don't get chased down, and I just love this from Lotus. They do not care at all about getting kills right now.
No, they are just interested in cleaning up these objectives, getting themselves their massive gold lead, and just running down the members of Dizzy. They've got those 6 grubs. They're going to get that Rift Herald once it is up and available. And
Mixture.
All right, Mixture caught out here. Going to end up giving a 5th kill over to Jimmy Jam, who's had a pretty solid performance in the jungle all in all. Has done a good job to clean up some of these kills, but just every lane is just so deeply behind that it just doesn't feel like it matters.
It's crazy to think about. Like, you look at the scoreboard, you're like, oh, they're up in kills. Oh, they're down 7.5k gold. And then you have 5-0 Jimmy Jam, who doesn't have a bounty because they're so far behind, even though the Zinzao is sitting on 5-0 with a Sundered Sky and his boots done. At least with that kill, Jimmy Jam does feel like they can try and play for the Dragon stacking. They've roamed Porsche down, and like we talked about with Lotus, they don't really care about much but structures, with Robbie Bob and Dardoch topside trying to get the Rift Herald in second tier 2 at about 15 minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, the structures problem is going to be omnipresent here as Robbie Bob works his way through this top inner incredibly quickly. Sushi and Porsche, they only have eyes for the mid inner. And Dardoch, having finished off that Rift Herald, is going to give them a path to be able to keep on pressuring these towers.
I mean, you don't see games every day where 5 structures are down at 15 minutes. It's just the reality we're in. It's going to get worse because that Rift Herald with 6 Void Mites as well stacked up. Got to think that you push out those side lanes if you're Robbie and Porsche, and then the 3-man of Dardoch, Sushi, and Mixture are just going to drop old Shelly down mid lane, and the only safe haven for Team Dizzy is going to be their base going forward.
do want to highlight, I mean, we haven't gotten to talk too much about builds with all the action going on, but it is a Leandry's rush for Porsche, so
Yep.
he is looking to rep a little bit of that magic damage himself, and it has made him a little bit squishier when members like Jimmy Jam do manage to get on top of him. It's a trade he's been willing to make, though, and coming into these later stages with such a lower damage profile just by virtue of being so far behind in gold, I do think they're still going to have trouble killing him with Cameron and Franco being still on, I mean, 0 items and 1 item respectively.
Yeah, he can basically, they don't have a ton of CC either, right? Like what, your Yumi ult, a Xin Zhao knock-up, you got slows on Rumble, Ivern's got 1 root and a knock-up, hoping you get with Daisy. Like, this is a dream Udyr game, and also mobility-wise a dream Rek'Sai game. I think Dardoch is just going to continue to try and catch anybody in the jungle, but here comes Team Dizzy.
All right, looking for the engage. Jimmy Jam going to dive forward on towards Dardoch to start things off. Sushi already raining through the damage. That Yumi ultimate doing a good job of slowing everybody down. But look at the burn damage from Porsche's ultimate. The Phoenix stance just completely destroyed all of Team Dizzy. And here's the cleanup for Robbie Bob, pulled in by Mixture, torn to pieces by Lotus. And that's an ace for 1.
Perfectly played fight. They wait for all the cards to be shown there from Team Dizzy. They jump forward. They have the Yumi on the Xin Zhao. They drop out Daisy. Once they get through the initial push, they just turn it on their head. Dardoch, you mentioned the absolute damage the Phoenix stance is doing, and Sushi's volleys coming through. That was a big time spiraling despair as well from Mixture. All the slows, all the magic damage over top. And that might have just sealed it, folks.
Yeah, if it wasn't over before, it's feeling pretty Jover right now, Slayer. That was actually such an insane amount of damage out of the Udyr of all people. It's been a quiet game for Porsche, but oh boy, when 4 people are standing in double R tap, boy, does that hurt with the Leandry's proc on top of it, and then it's just easy cleanup there for the damage dealers.
Yeah, I mean, this is disastrous. We want to go back talking about builds. Dardoch goes back and buys, you know, the Caulfield's Warhammer, gets the Phage immediately done as well. That's a 3-item Robbie Bob with an LDR just to burn through any sort of tanky stats. We might see how Lotus start having a bit fun with it if they really want to, but if we're being realistic, they might be able to just pile in 5 stack towards mid lane and take whatever they want, including the game by this point.
Serpent's Fang comes through for Sushi. I mean, I think it's smart. I don't even know if that's like optimal here. I think he maybe just wants some DPS, but I think you can build anything you want from this game state. The 13k advantage will certainly make up any differences that little optimizations would have created.
Yeah, Gordo, even if we take away the 13k gold lead, I think there is actually enough damage with just Robbie Bob alone. His hold on Mixture might get caught once again by Jimmy Jam. This time he has enough to slow it out. So, you know, you got a 3-item Tristana, and Rek'Sai's fed as well. Hold on, Jimmy Jam's gonna get jumped on now. Equalizer down, Dardoch just assassinates him. The Yumi getting melted right through, can't even get the full ult out. They will find the root on a Dardoch, but he's just a little bit too tanky. And Robbie Bob just pops Proctor in an instant. And now the inhibitors are in the eyes of Lotus.
Huh, 3.5 item Tristana. 3.5 item Tristana at 19.5 minutes really hurts. I mean, here's Rift Herald. Can we get the Dancing Herald? I have not seen the Dancing Herald in 2024. It's going to be tough, but they might be able to do it. It's at 9 hundo. They got to work through this turret. There's 300 HP on Shelly. They drive her. They're taking her backwards so that she can stay alive for longer. Getting back into it. Burned down by Cammer. He's going to stop the Dancing Herald. But Lotus will take the win and go up to 1-0 in the open qualifier.
You know it's a one-sided affair when me and Gordo are purely focused on Shelly's health bar in a 5v5 team fight. That's how commanding of a win it was for Lotus. And once again, it's kind of funny because most of the times when you think about super commanding wins, the immediate thing most League fans will grasp to is, all right, how bad is the kill department? But for, I want to say like 12 or 13 of the 20-minute game we just had, it was actually Team Dizzy that were ahead in kills. And just like we talked about multiple times through the game here, Gordo, the most veteran, calm approach to a game we've seen here from Lotus. They knew that they didn't have to worry about getting any of those kills. All they needed to do was knock down structures to get their gold lead and get themselves to the 1-0 that we all expected.
Yeah, I like, again, going for a little off the wall strat here from Team Dizzy as a low seeded team, just trying to fight their way back on in. I really think it all went sideways for him in the bottom lane, though. I mean, this rookie bot lane of Franco and Rock Tank, not even C-Law history on the board for them, and up against Sushi and Mixture, that is a unenviable task, and it's one that ends up with them just falling massively behind from the very word go. Really does end up meaning that they don't really have a Sivir to play through at all. She ends the game with one item.
Yeah, that's so rough. We saw the vision. Like, in an ideal world for Team Dizzy, if this comp can survive without giving away like too much of a gold lead to the later stages of this one, it becomes very difficult to kill this Sivir through the Ivern and the Yuumi. But I'm a broken record at this point, Gordo. Lotus were never going to let that happen, and they adjusted their draft correctly. They executed it even better. Go to 1-0. I think at the quickest 1-0 we probably are seeing right now across the qualifier, especially with a little bit of news that I got on the number 1 seeded team's game not going too hot.
No, all right. Well, we'll have to check that one out while we're in break here. It does seem like there was an FF, so at least one other game is completed, but there are 14 more games being played before round 1 can be done and dusted. And until that happens, we don't even get the seeding for round number 2. So feel free to hang out here. Feel free to check out some of the other OQ streams as well. We will be back with Lotus's round 2 matchup as soon as it is available, but we're going to have a little bit of a break before that. So we will see you guys and keep you updated in the Twitch chat. Stay tuned, and we'll be back for game 2.
Chemically brought down on its knees. With every breath that I breathe, clenched fists and gritting teeth. Tonight the energy flowing in me is waiting for relief. Thunder beneath my feet, I set you on my life. Until the darkness falls, and I lose control. Electricity, a part of me that's under pressure. Charged up, my fuse igniting a sight you wanna see. I'm outside, pointing to the sky. Gonna make the earth shake, cause you can't contain me. Voltage burst through the black of my eyes. Put my finger on the trigger and I'll shock you, baby. Against the odds, until the darkness falls. I feel it in my bones, a spark to lead us through the shadows. Can I fight the way before me? It's coursing through my soul, a road to guide us through the sorrow. Can I calm this storm inside me? I feel it in my bones, a spark to lead us through the shadows. Can I fight the way before me? the storm and the rain. In a intoxicated storm, if the sunshine let me know, all my thoughts move in the darkness of pouring down of a storm. My soul is. Should I pretend like we're just dancing in the sunlight? Now I'm done waiting every day until I realize you're the rain on my happy days. Dark cloud in the stormy rain.
Welcome back, everybody, to Aegis Esports' coverage of Lotus's run through the NACL Open Qualifier Swiss stage. You're getting into match number 2 here in the 1-0 bracket, where it will be Lotus taking on the victorious off a forfeit Gromp Cord squad. So some real new faces around the Open Qualifier circuit here, Slayer. Very curious to see how these guys are going to be able to face off against one of the best teams available here in Swiss.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting as well. And first game, come off the forfeit. It's always nice to get to that 1-0, but this is the reality you get when you get that 1-0. Is now you have to go up against Lotus. Yeah, not a lot of known about this Gromcord squad, at least in my boat, if I'm being completely honest. But what I am looking forward to see here is how Lotus want to kind of adapt their draft, because if you missed the last game, they got the curveball of going into a Yumi Sivir and an Ivern top. So we'll see how much of similarities the drafts go between the last 2 games here for Lotus, because as crazy as I think some of these drafts are going to get for some of these teams in this open qualifiers, I would wager we had the craziest.
Yeah, absolutely here. And don't think we're going to get to see too much of the same. I think the Ivern top is going to stay in the back pocket for the remainder of the open qualifier. That's my bold prediction coming into the back half here. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be the first game of the day for the Gromp Cord guys as well. So definitely going to be interested to see how they're going to be able to perform. I mean, they're definitely happy that they got the free win here, but the question is going to be, right? I mean, they aren't even really warmed up yet. How are they going to be able to perform up against Lotus? That's kind of the nature of these Swiss formats, right? Is, you get yourself a win, you beat a better team, you're feeling real good, and your reward is that you have to play against an even harder team. And especially early on, with very, very few upsets coming in the first round, you play a much harder team.
Yeah, much harder indeed. And will be interesting to see with this Gromcord team is how much are they willing in the ban phase to try and take away snowbally champions, champions that can kind of just end the game in 20 minutes like Lotus did last time round, right? Because I feel like that's kind of the MO that you get from a lot of those upper teams when they feel like I'm going to be a little disrespectful with this. When they feel like they're just the much better opponent, right? They're not going to play some scaling comp. They're going to play comfort champions where they can just start to run over teams from the start. And last game, that was like Robbie Bob's Tristana, certainly was Dardock's Rek'Sai. You had the range of the Ashe and Hui bot side for Mixture and Sushi. So we're going to see more of those what snowballing champions Lotus like to go with. And that's just the nature of the Swiss bracket rounds when you're covering a team as stacked as this Lotus one is.
Yeah, absolutely here. And it's looking like draft lull's still broken, so we're probably going to have to pivot over to the old pro draft here before too long. So still can't see the bans. Hopefully that'll be resolved for tomorrow. But we'll bring on up the pro draft. We won't miss a single thing. So yeah, I mean, going to be an interesting question to see what this Gromp Cord squad pulls out. Is they're not a team that we've gotten to see too much of. I know Went plays for San Jose State, so they've got a little bit of CLOL experience under the belt here. What's very interesting is Roger in the top lane, who it seems like was hanging around the community, playing on some Leaguepedia registered tournaments back in like 2019, 2020, but hasn't been playing in them since then. And then a couple of new faces who we really haven't gotten to see too much of before as well, in players like Walnut.
Yeah, and the unfortunate reality of being those new players, at least last game we saw, is with it was a Rock Tank and in that bottom lane duo was it kind of just got a little bit crushed. It was a bit of a reality check. So we'll see how much reality check comes the way of Gromp Cord into Lotus. But I am also a little worried. The superstitious person in me, you mentioned it, there weren't like that many real upsets compared to the first games we've seen in at least the last couple of qualifiers. So I feel like we might be due, and it certainly is a lot more fun with how we've changed the seeding format from day to day. But we'll see once we get into the draft. We'll see how this all forms. Like we mentioned in game number 1, if you had to talk about pure veterancy, leadership in these teams, especially towards the top side, Lotus arguably are at the top here with guys like Dardock, Robbie Bob, and Porsche.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. There's definitely quite a few folks trying to get their way back into the NACL who maybe have gotten to compete there before. And this team, that is Dardock and Robbie Bob, and they are looking to make that run back with a pretty solid squad built up around them. Would definitely be interested to see how these guys can make a name for themselves over the course of this summer split, especially Sushi and Mixture. I'm so excited for these guys. It's such a great opportunity for them to be able to play on a squad that's this stacked, and especially Sushi and ACL was just so impressive to me. And then during combine season, over the Running the Rift combine, really was happy with what we got to see out of Mixture as well. So I think both of these players definitely have got a lot coming for them in this summer split, and they're set up to have some just tremendous performances here to get them onto all pro teams and get eyes on them coming into the NACL qualifier tournament itself, which, I mean, Lotus with this second seed, they're expected to be top 4 at the end of the day and to make that tournament.
And Lotus obviously were one of the closest teams to maybe sneaking into that promotion tournament, the summer promotion tournament as well, from the pure point standpoint. So that's certainly got to be the goal for Marquez and the rest of Lotus here, nonetheless. And, you know, talking about that Sushi point, Gordo, I wonder how much some of these big time orgs in the tier 3 space have maybe been inspired by what we saw from, you know, I want to say Blue Water, but also the Aporia roster, right? Is maybe we're getting back to this idea that these teams are willing to maybe not commit to just the most bankrolled team with the veterans that you know have been to the NACL to try and get there. More of these teams are willing to try some young gun hotshots and give them that chance, because Samikin, you know, the rookie of that last qualifier run, it was just such a big part of Aporia / Blue Water's success in the mid lane, and I don't see why Sushi could not be in a similar position here with Lotus.
Yeah, for sure. So going to be waiting on a little bit of a reset here, but we should be able to get into things before too long. Find out how Grompcord want to try to approach this open qualifier, as we don't have a draft to go off of from game number 1. Something that did get kind of communicated, at least in my mind, in the first game we watched out of Lotus, is doesn't seem like Dardoch is too in for the Faded Ashes AP jungler kind of hype that is going around right now. He ends up picking Rek'Sai in the blue 4 slot, bans away the Brand, bans away the Karthus. Seems like he wants to get those mages out of there and kind of just jam a little bit more of a traditional aggressive jungle game that we're so familiar with from Dardoch.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, but I also think we always got to take any of our opinions from the game 1 draft with a grain of salt, because
sure, but the bans happened before the crazy picks started coming out.
True.
And the round 1 draft from Dizzy was pretty normal, actually. The Xin Zhao Rumble Sivir, so...
Oh, no, it was Yumi on the B3 or the R3.
On R4.
So.
On R4. So it
was it R4?
Rek'Sai. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I got the draft up still.
Okay, yeah, I mean, fact check me right there, Gordo. So I think that is a good point. I do think the Rek'Sai was locked in because they saw the Yumi and they realized some of the space to be created. There were some of the, you know, Faded Ashes users still available, not the most common ones. I think Maokai was still up in that draft. I've seen a lot of people rush Leandries on the Maokai. Amumu I've seen, but Dardoch's not going to play Amumu. That's a bit too crazy. So I do think that, you know, Dardoch, and we know the guy, right? That the champ pool he could play, the types of styles he could play, it feels pretty endless. At some point in Lotus's run in this qualifiers, I do think Dardoch is going to have to show he can play some of those powerful AP champions. But then again, like we mentioned a couple of times here, a lot of these teams that are seeded highly don't really want to show their full hand in the best of 1 Swiss stage if they don't have to.
Something else pickable right now, though, that you've gotten to see floating around in the LPL and stuff a bit, players like Milky Way busting out the Lee Sin. That's a Dardoch classic. I'm kind of keeping my fingers crossed that at some point over this weekend we'll get to see the Dardoch Lee Sin, just for old time's sake. I mean, I've been around here for forever, for Dardoch's whole career, and that has been an absolute treat whenever it's gotten to come on out. So fingers crossed that we get to see a little bit of the magic sometime this weekend.
Yeah, and hey, maybe with these Swiss games, you want to talk about the Magic champions or some of these players. Maybe we'll get a Robbie Bob Victor. I mean, who knows? There's a lot of possibilities. We did see Robbie Bob break out the Tristana, and like we talked about earlier, Robbie Bob, the last time a lot of people got to see him with UST, he was just playing all those, you know, very powerful control mages in the mid lane, and he was very, very stellar on the Tristana. Maybe not on the stat sheet, but with how well he was able to just knock down structure after structure. So Robbie Bob adapting to the new meta is fun as well, to see how he can flesh out his champ pool. And Mixture also rock the Hoi support, something that they're not the most well known for at this point, up to their spot here on Lotus, but that's what you got to do as a top team. Is you got to be able to show that you can really adapt to the meta while not, showing all your cards until you get to those GSL games that qualify you for playoffs and get you the real lucrative points.
Yeah, absolutely here. So every win does matter at this stage of the tournament, so definitely don't want to let your guard down, but certainly, as is traditional with these kinds of open qualifiers, you usually expect the top couple of seeds to just kind of walk their way through the first couple of rounds. But of course, Gromcord, they want to say something about that if they get the opportunity to. And having they're already going to get reseeded after day one, by the way, so that's pretty good for them. The fact that they're not going to go 0-2 no matter what happens, and that they are going to kind of get the chance to have some better seeding coming into day number 2, that's going to be great for them. So I mean, if I'm Gromcord, I'm already calling today a win, and hoping that now with our first game to actually be played, we're going to be able to maybe even take it another step further. I mean, if these guys start 2-0, that is going to be the shock of the open qualifier. I'll promise you that. And the reseeding has a really good chance of just getting them through into top 16.
Yeah, I mean, by that point, you get reseeded high. You really just need one win, and you're over the moon.
Top 8.
Yeah, you reset top 8, and then you just got to get one win with the matchups you'll be given from that point. It's a big spot to be in, but I think it's a good sentiment to share that, the fact that they're going to come in 1-1, get reseeded nonetheless, is a good spot to be in. A better spot than it seems like some of the players' Wi-Fis are in currently for our lobby.
Yeah, and hopefully we're able to get all the squad here back with their Wi-Fi functional. And yeah, it does seem like it is Porsche who's struggling in the Wi-Fi department. Hopefully he's able to get that fixed on up.
That's the hope. I mean, need him to play. I mean, I'm actually curious. I can't film. Yeah, I don't think any of their subs are willing to slide right into top lane in what is it, City Witty and Rocket. So
City Witty's a multi-role king, man. He might be able to push it up, but we will have to see.
That'd be crazy.
That would be wild.
It certainly would. And Ty, just to be more of a glazer of this Lotus roster, I'm also a big fan of the Frost.
Oh wait, Rocket is a top laner.
Oh, is Rocket a top laner?
Well, there we go. Rocket's a 16-year-old top laner. This is his first tournament, so apologies to us for not doing the full deep research into Lotus. That would be spicy if he ends up coming in.
I wonder what the rules are on this game having to start. I don't know.
I think you lose bans if you're starting at 15 minutes late. You start to lose bans. Half an hour late, you forfeit. Oh my god! If Gromcord gets a second forfeit win and gets reseeded top 8.
Oh my god!
Woo! It's not going to happen. It's surely that he's
no. I mean,
he played a game like 20 minutes ago. Surely it'll be fine.
Surely. I mean, I'm not trying to jinx anything here. All right.
That would be crazy, though. I mean, we can manifest the nuttiest open qualifier narrative that's ever happened.
I'm pretty sure at a certain point they just call Rocket in. So, and in a matchup like this, they could draft around Rocket pretty comfortably. Whatever the young prodigy could play. I wonder what Rocket's peak is in solo queue. I mean, now that we got the time.
Let me see if they've got it in here. I mean, yeah, we got a couple of minutes. Let me see if he's in the OPGG master sheet here for Lotus. Clicking on through, there's Sushi, there's Porsche, there's Robbie, there's Rocket. He is Masters.
Okay. All right.
Appears to have peaked Masters. So, still got some growing to do for certain, but not untenable if forced to sub in.
Yeah. This Lotus team can make it work, and we've seen a lot of teams kind of.
Oh, the ready ups! The ready ups are coming through.
Oh, okay. Well, that is from the team that does have everybody here.
No. Friends is here. Friends is here for Lotus. We got it.
Yeah,
We're in the draft. The draft started up.
All right, we're done vamping.
Running.
Thank God. Here we go. All right, the TF ban is the first one for Lotus. And immediately, I'm glad to see that Gromcourt have passed the checking at least the last draft law results and
Huge.
banning Porsche's Udyr away.
Yeah, going to be looking to make Porsche just have a little bit of a tougher time here. Man's a weak side king. Would definitely be happy to just chill up there. Ooh, and a Kled ban coming on through. Focus towards Gromcourt. So maybe going to be looking to take away some of those pocket picks away from this squad. And we'll find out what the first pick of the draft is going to be. It's going to be that Tristana once again. Robbie Bob snaps it up, doesn't care that the Corki's up and available. With the nerfs on the patch, I think this is the right choice.
Yeah, and once again, why not just go to what works? Don't have to show too much of your hand as a team when you're expecting to go a lot further down the line in this qualifier. So, and also, this is the only time you're really going to be able to likely play the same champion more than once in a day because we're on the best of one format, so that I'm going to call it true fearless, right? I can get as mad as they want. Doesn't really apply to any of these games.
Whoa! What is going on here? Is that locked in?
Oh, no way.
Okay, R1 is Vladimir. That is a Vladimir first pick. Still spicy. Not quite as
had a
spicy
heart
as the
attack,
Warwick. That is the Vladimir and the Varus. So double V's coming through for Gromcourt.
Okay, I think Varus is still in a decent spot. But I think he's a lot more situational than he ever was. So we'll see how this one plays out. Obviously, you have the same conversations every time. It's like, oh, are you going lethality bars? You going on hit? I think on hit's a lot more the king. I don't really know how you can make lethality work. Then again, Gentle Hearts won their game with Devin playing lethality Varus in a late game heater. So we'll see exactly what this looks like for Joseph, however he goes about pronouncing that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go dive into the Gromcourt OPGG here a little bit and see if I can find out whose Vladimir this is. As it does not appear in the too many most played champions match histories, but maybe just a part of the strategy they have cooked up for this particular run.
And then we have Lotus locking in Italy, which has been pick or ban in the LCK since we kicked off. Now we got a Rengar. Man, we're just getting... All right. I mean, Dardoch Italy is going to be very fun to watch. Sushi goes back to the Ashe, which I think makes a lot of sense here. And it's another team that I'm giving respect to because they're just throwing all caution to the wind here with some of their picks to try and get that upset. Rengar, I gotta think, has to be the jungle pick so far. Yeah. Maybe could be top if they want to throw Vlad mid and they want to get real crazy, but
yeah, you know, we got X-Royals in this tournament somewhere. He's a sub on one of these teams, so, you know, if he's rocking the Rengar top lane, then somebody else could be as well. There's going to be that Camille ban dedicated towards Porsche, and perhaps setting up for some kind of blind top laner here, assuming that it is Vladimir mid and Rengar jungle. That Nidalee for Dardoch going to be a spicy one. Doesn't mean we don't get the Lee Sin, but will be a very, very strong jungler in the current meta.
Yeah, and you could just be arguably more aggressive early than you could on Rek'Sai, and just about as aggressive as you can be on Lee Sin early game. So this will be fun. This is what, you know, made Nidalee's a champion that just really made Dardoch so famous so long ago. Yeah, and it's cool to see. And funnily enough, Nidalee's the exact same champion she was back then. So this will be fun to watch. Nautilus, great lock in here to pair next to that Varus. I feel like you got to go on hit with the front line that you're trying to build up if you're Gromcourt here. Nautilus is certainly one of those champions that is very, very strong in the meta right now. I feel like a Rel lock-in is a little troll in Nautilus. No, can't Nautilus cancel a lot of what Rel wants to do? Am I trolling?
There's options there. It's a matchup people are kind of willing to play, though, in the right circumstances. You can kind of counter-engage really effectively with it. There's that Cassante being hovered for Porsche. I've seen some very, very impressive Cassante games out of Porsche. I'm remembering back when TDS and I used to cover Team Ambition, I remember some nutty Porsche games of him just completely taking over off the back of... It was earlier Cassante, too. This is like the Cassante that spawned all the memes.
Yes.
Still quite a talented Cassante player in his own right. Now, the last pick here for Gromcourt is surely going to be some kind of tank top laner. They've been banning to defend them this whole way through, and maybe it is going to be this Shen.
I'm going to throw this out here, all right? The highest win rate champion from 14-11 was Shen mid. Just saying. I'm
Ooh.
just throwing that out there. All right. Not
And-
confirming anything, but the lock is here.
Shen Nocturne's a combo too, or Shen Rengar rather. Shen Nocturne is also a combo, but Nocturne's not in this game. Shengar is definitely a combo if it does end up coming together as well.
Without a doubt. I think the Shen still should go topside and make it a classic top lane island matchup we'll have up there, which is Porsche's more than comfortable doing, right? Like we saw with the Udyr, like he's gonna litmus test like how much he can proxy, how much he can harass in the jungle before he dies. And I mean, he was 0-2 because he was perfectly fine with dying to sacrifice for turrets. Don't think that's gonna be the same reality here, but I would be very remiss if I didn't see Dardoch clear down in this game once again.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the lane to watch, right? Or that's going to be the matchup to watch, is going to be how Dardoch can navigate this jungle matchup as the Nidalee facing off against the Rengar, kind of the most off meta of picks up against one that's really rising up the ranks of pro play right now. And then we're going to have to see how he's going to be able to swing some of these lane matchups. As again, if this is going to be Vladimir up against the Tristana, it feels like it's going to be pretty tough. Although that Shen mid that you mentioned maybe could throw a bit of a wrench into things, as I think that would do a lot better having to face off against an auto attack focused champ.
I do think that, you know, the more I think about it, Vladimir can kind of cancel out a little bit of the early pressure with Tristana with your Sanguine pool, right? Like you can just go untargetable. Once that bomb's placed on your head, you get the hop slow going. Like you can make sure like you nerf or at least disrupt the reset chain that Robbie Bob will look for. Obviously, Robbie Bob will recognize that. We are going through the client side draft, and we do see the Shen is locked in topside for Jumanji as he is on the client.
He is registered on the OQs as Roger. So I'm going to call him Roger, but in-game name Jumanji. And I like that. Roger, consider a name change, man. I like Jumanji as a competitive ID. I think that'd be fun. So that does mean it's going to be Went taking up that Vladimir in the middle lane. And I'm worried about that matchup up against Robbie Bob's Tristana. I'm not going to lie to you, Slayer.
Yeah, I mean, it all revolves around the timing of that W. And if you can sort of outlast the early trades and get enough sustain going, because that's Vladimir's MO. But yeah, Gordo, you make a good point, because Vladimir would be a lot more potent in the meta if he wasn't so easy to bully early and just stunt his scaling. And that's what he's relying on. He's relying on getting to 3 item points where he can just drop that ultimate and try and delete everybody with those big E's, heal up for an infinite amount. And that doesn't come very quickly for Vladimir. So definitely is going to be a comfort pick. Does give us the identity of the rest of this lane. And I do think that Sushi and Mixture this will be a fun test for them. Obviously, you're going to favor them purely from the player-to-player matchup from what we know, but they are not getting the autopilot lane of playing double ranged into a Sivir Yuumi early. It's not going to be that simple.
Yeah, and to be fair, on the Vladimir pick, yes, historically, it has not had a big part in the meta, but game did patch a couple days ago, and they did have Vladimir buffs on that patch. So we haven't gotten to see too much of what live patch Vladimir has to offer. You know, we've got ourselves 2 LCS series and whatever NACL series is going on in the background of that. And that's about it, other than the OQ games being played here today. So there could be some more Vladimir value and competitive that just hasn't yet been discovered. They're not the biggest buffs in the world. Just a little bit less health cost on his W, a little bit more healing on his W, and a little bit better of a health ratio on his W. But don't forget, AP gives Vladimir health, so you're always building health.
Yep, straight away, without a doubt, building that health. We'll see exactly as well for the jungle matchup. Rengar is an ultimate champion. You alluded to the fact that like Shen Nocturne is the usual pairing. That's because you're waiting to sync up ultimates. That's exactly what you're looking to deliver the Ninja with that Rengar ultimate as well, which I'm curious to see how aggressive Dardoch will get early, knowing that, you know, you can punish this Rengar on his clear. We'll see how aggressive they get with early warding. You have a Rel, you have a Nautilus. We might see some level 1 shenanigans, especially with how Rengar can also manipulate the bushes. It's funny. We're finally getting a matchup in the jungle in this OQs where both champions are, from their kit standpoint, very happy to play around in the brush.
Yeah, definitely going to be a focus around being able to skirmish in jungle and what you're going to be able to accomplish there. It's just the fact that the backup is going to be so much more readily available, it feels like, from the side of Lotus, right? And that's what Dardoch is going to be banking on, and what he's going to be hoping for is that, especially top side, right? Robbie Bob's going to have perma push in mid lane. Porsche has the ability to AoE the waves much more effectively than Shen does. So he's going to be pushing in top lane, and you're going to be able to just continue to collapse in towards the enemy red side that way. We saw a little bit of that, especially in the early game of game number 1, just using 3 winning lanes, getting into the enemy jungle, picking up first blood off of that. And that's what set Robbie Bob up to be able to snowball in game number 1 and just be absolutely massive on this same exact Tristana.
Those do have to be careful, though. Like, it's the obvious point to make. They went into a comp that was just banking on surviving to like 30 minutes, 3 items, and trying to win the game there. There is some real pick potential and just number advantage in generality with Gromp Cord. Like, we have a Shen and a Rengar here. So at any point, any plays you go for can get counteracted. But I think more importantly, with the top jungle we're seeing here, I would be very disappointed if Gromp Cord aren't looking for angles where they can just bring Shen into a Rengar gank and target, some decently squishy champions, with not a lot of mobility, especially Sushi. I expect this to be Walnut trying to gank Sushi, trying to knock this Ashe down, because the 2 pitfalls I think Ashe has in the marksman role are the obvious one being just very low mobility. There's 0 mobility on Ashe's kit. And secondly, if you can knock her down early enough, the low-key scaling damage that this champion can bring to the later phases of the game isn't there, and you can push her into being an ult bot and into a composition where you have a topside Cassante and a Nidalee who is just pure single target damage. Lotus are ranking pretty decently on Ashe to be there damage-wise alongside Robbie Bob's Tristana.
Yeah, definitely here. And going to be a lot of focus again towards Robbie in the mid lane. I called this out in game number 1. For anybody who's just joining us, wasn't around for there, Robbie Bob is just absolutely rock solid in the mid lane at this level of play. He very, very rarely is going to give up any kind of mistakes, going to kind of show any holes in the armor up against these kind of open qualifier teams. And I firmly expect that he is going to be able to just run away with most of these matchups.
Well, Gordo, it's finally time for us to run on to Summoner's Rift here. Our final game of our Aegis' coverage of the Lotus number 2 seed run through the first summer qualifiers. And I don't want to talk too much because maybe I'm wrong. They're fan starting. All right. I mean, Rel Nautilus, 2 early game junglers. I thought we were going to have a little bit of fun, guys, but I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's going to be a little calm for the time being, at the very least.
I mean, a Shen too? Like,
this is always, day 1 is always fun, right? Day 1 is where you get to see all the wacky picks. Day 1 is where you hopefully get to see some of these lower seeded teams try their hand at unique reads on the meta to try to get some upsets in, and that's always a whole bunch of fun. So very happy that we get to see 2 games of that here up against Lotus. You want to see some of these lower seeded teams really try to kind of change up the odds, throw some chaos into the mix, and get themselves whatever advantages they can garner before we start getting into these really close, really high stakes matches on Sunday.
And that is what Gromp Cord are looking to set themselves up so well for. Like we mentioned, not the forfeit win means they're already going to get pretty nicely reseeded, excuse me. And if they can come up with this upset, they are in the prime position to be a not likely OQ team to make it to that GSL stage. We do see Dardoch going for that clear down. I like this a lot. I got to think that he's going to try and invade, play for that scuttle crab on the bot river, and see if he can find maybe a gank angle into a bottom lane that isn't guaranteed to just be pushing in Lotus's favor.
Absolutely here. And already going to see that early push starting to come out across. And the one lane that I would be a little bit thinking that you could try to play through for Gromp Cord would be this bottom lane, but already Sushi and Mixture hitting level 2 first, and Realms just completely zoned off immediately. Curfew going to be in very much the same position.
Yeah, not fun in the slightest. At least this time around with the mirrored clear, if Dardoch paths down and tries to play for an invade, he's not going to find any camps to steal. But this is also rough because it does look like Curfew is going for that lethality Varus, and you got to have some early impact on that champion with how quickly you can get to those lethality item spikes. So getting set behind on that is never going to be fun, but he is at least able to claim more minions than I thought he would. That's a pretty damn close trade in the mid lane.
Yeah, absolutely. Here went going to pop that ghost, trying to get in here to get the advanced infusion. Will not be able to find it, transfusion rather, and not going to be able to find Robbie Bob with it. So gonna just have to settle there. Nice double stun out of Mixture in the bottom lane. He takes a turret shot, but he has the aftershock running for it. Yusuf gonna be forced to use the cleanse to survive that ignite, and he's gonna be forced way out of there.
And he has to be careful because, I mean, he was at a close point where I thought a flash volley auto might just claim Curfew from Sushi, but the wave does stack right back up. Dardoch is in the area. Might look for the spear of a lifetime. They cancel the back out of Curfew. And they might just set up for a dive here. No jungle help coming, Gordo.
No, none at all. You know, maybe did get to set up and not land that spear on the right target, but finished off by Dardoch anyway. Solo kill to the jungler as Realms has to flash out to safety, but on the hunt is Dardoch, and he walks away with a double kill.
I know the heroes are going on. That looked like a bend it like Beckham spear. I don't know how that thing went around Nautilus. Finding a needle in a haystack angle is Dardoch, and this is what we talked about, folks. If you are an old head League of Legends fan, you know exactly what Dardoch's Nilly looks like. 2-0, immediately slams the Sork Boots, is going to be flying around his own jungle. I do like that Walnut is trying to at least punish, but the full clear came across, so all he could find is a ward back in a bottom lane that needed to find some early success with a lethality Varus is in peril.
Yeah, it's a tough start for Curfew and Realms for sure. Now Robbie on an angle to go aggressive. There is the Vladimir buffs kind of on display there. You feel less bad about just popping your W before you start taking damage, because the upfront cost is lesser. So you get a whole 5% extra health out of that than what Went would have had last patch.
Yeah, and that's exactly how you just shut down the only Tristana combo you have in lane. So you wait for the hop, you wait for the bomb to get thrown on your head, and you just waddle out. Yes, it's gonna, cost him some farm, and he does take a good amount of poke after that, but he's at least not falling early, and it looks like he's trying to set Realms and Walnut up for a play, but they're leaving Curfew.
They certainly are, and that means he's gonna get flash stunned up by Mixture. Good cutoff of the only escape route. Tries to flash, but will go down to one more shot from Sushi, and this lane is already feeling like it's done and dusted, Slayer.
Yeah, and Dardoch knows, hey, my bot lane is slamming. Now I can just take every single thing I want on this bot lane side, including that first dragon. And at this point, I know it's auto director, it's not our lovely producer PVS. We don't even need to look top at any point. Like, nothing is going to happen up here. I will cast a curse. I don't care. The only thing you're going to see happen there is maybe Porsche cancels a Stand United from Roger.
Yeah, that's possible. I could see Dardoch making a path up there at some point, but his focus is going to be on the other side of the map for right now. Walnut has been farming up quite nicely, but really does want that level 6 to make these ganks happen. He's going to see if he can get himself this Scuttle Crab, but will find Dardoch and Mixture waiting for him, and he's going to have to call it quits there. Channels the recall and the Tri-Brush.
Mid lane took a reset as well. Yeah, there's no help coming. And Dardoch is just so on top of these timers and knows exactly how strong he is. Thank you, PVS. We can see the Vladimir tax come across. Probably willing to sacrifice 800 of his scaling gold just to nerf the healing that Went can go for.
Yeah, Lotus really in there testing Grievous Wounds value arc right now. Is 2 games in a row. Some very early Grievous Wounds picks ups have to end up coming on through. And I mean, they passed the test both times. It was Mixture biting the bullet last time. Now it's Robbie Bob just making sure that he's going to be able to minimize some of that sustain from Went. Here we get to see the trade pattern. I mean, going to get that detonate off before too long. Good damage, but Went just throws down the ultimate. Looking to get aggressive, as he was going to have his Q back up, and now missing out on some of that return damage, tanking up the minions as well. It feels like Robbie is the one who's really winning out on this matchup, especially opting in for the Presti attack.
Yeah, Gordo, it's hard to tell in a game, like an online video game, when people give off a calm demeanor. But the way Robbie Bob is just spacing went right now with his pure range is really good to see. They do pop the on the hunt though. Walnut is going to force the flash, but oh my god! The max range spear from Dardoch gets one, forces the Stand United out of the Shen, who does get the taunt. Dardoch flashed over into Fog, was not expecting to see Roger, so the shutdown will come back across. Bot side though, guess what? Sushi and Mixture at it again. Realms is going to fall as well. So overall across the map, it's still a pretty big win for Lotus.
Dardoch is a nut job, man. He just lands that max range spear, does a boatload of damage, and flings himself in, flashing over the wall, getting a little over aggressive with it, and ends up giving that one kill back on over to Roger.
Oh.
Now the dive coming through in bottom lane yet again, and Curfew a little bit doomed here.
An 0-3 lethality Varus. I mean, yeah, this is rough. This is rough. Lotus looking as polished as ever, and playing as early and aggressive as ever as they want to. And yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Dardoch flashing over a wall when he knows there's a Shen with ult up, this is still the perfect game going for Lotus.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the next generation, by the way, on display here for Sushi and Mixture. These guys, names that I expect to see in NACL in 2025, and they are just running a clinic on bot lanes here. As speaking of running a clinic, Went going to have to use the pool very early there. Will regen back on up off the Hemo Plague, but forced out of this mid lane for certain.
Both supports are roaming up. Well, I guess Realms is already here. Walnut might get cut off, does dodge the spear, but Borch is running right at him, gonna all out him over the wall, where he's got no friends left. No Stand United to bail him out. The Rengar falls, and he might just get Roger killed as well, as Porsche is unrelenting. 300 dashes, 200 unstoppables. Cassante is inevitable. Dardoch will pick up the double.
Wow, Mixture's going deep here, just matching Realms with that Blast Cone. Good interrupt from Realms. Might get him out to safety, but the Magnet Storm is up and available. Spear connects on a Dardoch, and his execute damage will be enough. The Nidalee is 6 kills deep before 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Medjai's rush I've ever seen one. Can Dardoch find another insane spear? Mixture might just set it up. There's the flash away. Mixture is maybe crazier than Dardoch is in this game. On the hunt can be popped, and Walnut will find him. You really get the feel that Lotus are limit testing what they can do in this one.
Yeah, they're really trying to play this one super aggro, confident that they'll be able to stay on top, and I do love to see them pushing up the pace here. Just really not letting any space be given back on over to Grompcord as they look to run away with this one, and very big lead built up for them here, over 4K now, as we still have plates standing and still have plenty of plates left to claim.
Yeah, it's opposite from last game. We're not going to get anywhere near a 15-plate game here for Lotus. I do think this will be a fun way to test exactly, you know, you talk about the young prodigies of Mixture and Sushi especially. Let's see how well Sushi can play on the weak side, because he is so strong at this point into this lethality Varus that Mixture is willing to leave him on that island as a low mobility AD carry. That's a dangerous game to play, so you have to be really smart on how you position and how you decide to catch these waves. If Realms and Curfew decide to stay around, because this is a Varus Nautilus. There's enough CC to lock down the Ashe and find a pretty big shutdown.
Yeah, there definitely is. So Sushi gonna have to keep his wits about him, gonna have to play responsibly. Meanwhile, an attempt to go for the full 6 grubs here from Dardoch and Porsche, as UST teammates looking like they will be able to secure it no problem. This full UST top side has been plenty dominant on the day, and looking to have themselves a little bit of a Dardoch carry game here, as they've got themselves the Sork Shoes and the Lichbane already done.
Yeah, the Lichbane especially is so smart, because with 6 mites, it just lets Dardoch help really knock down these structures. And yeah, he's 6-1, man. First to his first item. He's taking whatever he wants on the Rift, and now it's going to be the Dragon. And with those mites, with Robbie Bob once again running the Demolish on this Tristana mid, is starting to get that plate counter up that we saw go to the max in Game 1 for Lotus.
Yeah, I mean, he grabbed 3 plates since the last time we checked in on plate counts, by the way. He just ripped through those with just one wave crashing, and that's going to be the ultimate forced out of Curfew in the bottom lane, just getting nervous, feeling like Mixture's going to dive him again. Pops that one out there, and now that's going to be a tool unavailable for what could be a 4-man dive coming towards the bottom side.
Dardoch's certainly looking, and it feels like It's like the Nidalee version of the hitting the Yasuo nado. Is if he hits a spear at this point, I think he's going to throw everything at the wall to just jump over and kill somebody. Especially with the Darksteel still stacking and how aggressive we've already seen him play. Is hanging around this bottom lane, trying to see how much damage I think he could do. That spear, I gotta think, would have nearly one-shot Curfew at this point in the game.
I'm wincing every time I see these things coming out. It is so dangerous to potentially get nicked by one at max range. You will very well lose a solid 1/3 to 1/2 of your health bar off the spear alone, and that's without that execute coming in after the pounce. They're just forcing members out of this jungle. This is the game plan that Dardoch was kind of going for in game number 1. Ended up with the enemy jungler getting quite a few kills and being a little bit more of a threat. Not the case for Walnut this time, and they are just stanking their claim on this bottom side. No chance at Walnut being able to pick up anything.
Yeah, it's mostly a difference of champion too, I think, right? I think Dardoch, you know, Xin Zhao can really match a lot of early game tempo junglers. Rengar can't. He had to get to the on the hunt, and by the time he got that ult up, he was already decently behind here. So it's really just Dardoch's playground, like I've said about 700 times in this game. I will say though, Lotus, we were toying around with the how many plates they actually get this game. They got pretty close to 15. What, there were 3 off?
Yep. It's 12 taken, and it doesn't look like that number is going to go up anymore as the plates drop down in 2, 1, and they're gone. Very close, though. Very close to being able to get the 15-plate dream, and it's a couple of very aggressive early games coming out of Lotus to build themselves up huge structure-based advantages. This time, though, with the kills to back it up.
Yeah, this is the one-sided game counter. Like, this is not shocking. 9-2, and you know you're ahead when your Ashe knows that she can just volley rain onto a Shen with Ignite. So that's the point of the game we're at. Dardoch will keep up his tempo, taking every single neutral objective that he likes. This time it's going to be the Rift Herald, and with plates gone, one more wave will likely give Robbie Bob the mid-turret and even more access to the enemy jungle for Lotus.
Starting on up on the Rift Herald, Dardoch should be able to take this one without too much trouble. Walnut did just pop the ultimate, so it looks like they're going to try to make some kind of stand here. Mixture already knows he's around, throws down the Magnet Storm, catches out Walnut, the ultimate being channeled here, try to save him, but he will drop too fast. Shen cannot join, and Porsche is all over the enemy AD carry. He's going to be able to take down Curfew. Wentz gets hunted down by Robbie. The only combo, the flash, it's beautiful out of Robbie Bob as Lotus takes the fight.
And they blow it right open. Near ace coming across. It could have been if they had not killed the enemy champion that was getting Stand United ultimate. But poor Shen here just had to watch his team Roger drop his team off, and now they're gonna knock down so many structures. Over a 10k gold lead. All the agency they want with the fact that they have the CC of a Rel and an Ashe at any point, and anytime you step into, well, anywhere outside of your base at this point, if you're Grom card, one spear from this Nidalee will one-shot. Yeah, I am just waiting to see when Dardoch finally takes the reset. This is the most jungler syndrome thing ever. He sees camps up, he's refusing to reset. PVS, can we check his gold real quick that he's sitting on? Yeah, just 2,400.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a bag there, Slayer. He's gonna be cashing out with probably almost a full legendary item here. Gonna be very close.
He might just sprint the Medjais. Yep. Oh, yep. There we go. Yeah. So he gets the Medjais going, and well, any Lotus socials enjoyers, just get ready because you might have your fun little engagement farm with a Dardoch one-shot spear. This is the best situation. You're gonna get all OQs long for it.
Yep. And he goes for the Medjais just to keep on snowballing Realms. A little bit caught on out here, going to lose a fair bit of HP. Robbie Bob still throwing through these shots. There's going to be Mixture leading off the dive. Porsche just tanking up the turret. He doesn't even care. Robbie Bob flinging back away Roger as Dardoch arrives to the play, and that damage, he just deletes him instantly.
Yep, 4 more stacks. We're trudging along. I might actually be upset if we don't get to see at least one spear nearly one-shot somebody. I will say it's a little bit harder this game because there is a Nautilus and a Shen. Yep, I'm starting to wince even my voice watching these spears fly at dear old Curfew.
I really want one. I mean, they have so much vision control now, and surely Grompcord are going to try to get a little bit more aggressive to try to see if they can sneak something out. That's going to be the moment where one of these big spears does end up connecting. But right now, it's just Third Dragon and Soul Point going over to Lotus. No contest available, and maybe it's once these epic buffs are available that we'll start to see a desperate attempt from Grompcord to avoid the game just getting out of control entirely, as though it isn't already.
Yeah, you want to see how out of control it is? Just watch and see if Porsche takes any health damage. Oh, he actually let him escape. Oh, he's just putting the sushi on a platter. Who goes unstoppable? I wonder if Dardoch wants to really have fun with these hex gates, he should just camp at max range and wait for somebody to come out of the hex gate and just one shot him.
Yeah. Oh, that was a pretty big one, but that one connected on a realm, so that doesn't feel like it counted. Nope. He's got himself a fair bit of tankiness. There's going to be the 3-man Magnet Storm. Oh, there's the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. And Lotus have no reason to slow down. They're going to force back this pair, chase it even further, flash it into the base. Curfew goes down. And Went will commit the Hemo Plague. Oh. That threat will be enough for him to walk away, but it's just donezo.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the 25 stacks. That's when we'll have our window. But they are at such a rapid pace, they might not even get to that point. Knock down the mid inhibitor. And at this point, if the waves are right, one more fight win might just end the game before we can even have some fun with this very, very fed Nidalee. I'm willing to wager that Dardoch might not even take another reset this game.
He might not. I don't think he doesn't really need to. It's very likely that the game's just going to end this way. We get another shot at the Dancing Herald here, although it's a very early one that ends up coming through. Porsche's got 2 members on him, so this is a 4 versus 3 push. Do we get the Dancing Herald, Slayer?
Well, I just want to see it first if Porsche can come out of this with a win. He goes for the all-out decently late, though. Walnut trying to use the brush, and the Herald's getting a little low, Gordo. I'm a little worried.
Yeah, Herald's doomed. Herald's down. Now it's all about Porsche trying to sustain through this, trying to execute onto Roger. He will fall. There will be some gold going back into Roger's pockets, but a Nexus turret and 2 inhibitors fall for it.
Dardoch, please just reset. I need you to buy another pure damage item so that we can see the spear. Because I think Curfew actually just ate one and it didn't do nearly as much damage as I thought it would. But of course, there's camps up. Dardoch must claim all.
Yeah, he'll sweep through the enemy jungle here. Now, here's your best chance, Slayer, because it might be more efficient, yeah, to recall here and go down to your own Krugs. So you get the jungle brain working in your favor.
His Krugs aren't there.
Go buy something. He doesn't know that.
Krugs. Yeah, it's true. All right, he gets his Zanyas. I didn't think that would be the item, but I guess he wasn't really want to die.
You don't want to give up that shutdown.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, might be a little BM. Does the shutdown really matter? What? Who knows? Porsche. This is becoming a battle for Lotus on who can go crazy, who can go too far forward. We've seen it's been mixture at points, Dardoch at points, and now Porsche is just teleporting nearly into the enemy base. Baron's gone, by the way, on spawn in case anybody was curious.
Yep. Goodbye, Baron. We'll see you next game. We'll see you tomorrow, I guess, because I don't think we're going to be in here for long enough for another Baron to spawn.
That'd be a problem if we do get to that.
Yeah. All right. So here's the full man push. There's going to be the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. There is nowhere left on Earth for Curfew to go, and these carries are just getting run through by the massively ahead Lotus team.
Yeah, Robbie's even going to slip out. Dardoch goes godlike, and Lotus right up to expectations. Average game time of about 20.5 minutes. They will confidently go up 2-0 as one of those teams looking to go perfect to start off OQ1.
Yeah, it was expected. It was certainly in the predictions for Lotus to start off 2-0, but executing on it in a very dominant fashion. You know, sometimes even these high-seeded teams, they're going to play it real slow. They're going to play it real controlled. Saw even a little bit of a close match from the first seed Dragoons Goons in round number 1. Not the case for Lotus here. 2 incredibly dominant showings from this squad.
Yep, they showed that they are willing to pick comfort. Honestly, staple champions of some of these veterans that control the early game. No matter what curveballs, honestly, both of our teams throw at them. Both Team Dizzy and Grompcord tried to catch them off guard with some interesting picks. Obviously, it was the Ivern top and a Yuumi support in game number 1 from Team Dizzy, and then here from Grompcord, you guys at home all just saw it. It was a Rengar jungle and a Vladimir mid, but nothing can deny Lotus their 2-0. The reseeding likely not going to shuffle them up at all. They still stand firm as a team that, like we came on here talking about, a potential 5-0 going into the GSL.
Yeah, I mean, looking like they've got great shots at it here based on the performances today. Again, up against some of the lower seeded teams, so not the toughest competition they're going to face, but all around looking really good and controlled. Porsche, Dardock, and Robbie Bob showing some of that UST synergy, showing that they've really got a lot of experience playing together and that they have shared visions on what they want to do on the top side. And then Sushi and Mixture, right? Big upcomer duo that we're going to be focusing on, and kind of the wild cards of this team flanking the veterans. Great performances in the 2-on-2, both lanes, largely left alone for quite a while and building up those leads individually to a incredible degree up against their opposition.
Yeah, game one, it was the less flashy way, using their range, getting a serious creep score advantage and plate advantage. This was the more flashy, fun one. Mixture was unconscious on this rel. I mean, it was instantly double crash down lineups, double stun lineups, and from there he just went all across the rift and really showed why he was highly touted and brought a part of this Lotus org team. And I just can't wait. I honestly, I can't wait for tomorrow. I think the highest reason why Gordo might be we get to see Sushi not play a champion as, kit-wise as boring as Nash is.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm definitely hyped up for tomorrow. The 2-0 matches are where things are usually really going to start to heat up, and we're going to be here to take it through with Lotus. We're going to send you guys over to NACL 2 to check on out their matchup. They are currently watching Gentle Hearts Gaming taking on Wang. It's not Wang's Revenge anymore. What are they now? Wang Town? Wang Town. You are right. They are Wang Town. So go check out that matchup. Feel free to ride the raid and say hello to Grapes and Hawk for us. We will be back tomorrow as Lotus continues their run in the 2-0 bracket.